Do you ever feel you're underappreciated? Maybe by your wife or husband, or girlfriend or boyfriend, or whatever friend. The massage you provided only gets a slight groan as they fall into deep sleep. Perhaps by your children, as they don't even bother saying thank you or give you the light of day to acknowledge your presence as they go straight from door to bedroom and shut. That finely prepared meal that took you days to prepare gets one taste, and then its utensils laid over, calling it done. Maybe that deep clean job in your house no one ever wanted to do, and once it is done by you, it just gets messed up again. Perhaps by your coworkers and or boss after you introduce them to a new way of thinking and doing work which is promptly taken credit for by somebody else. Does it ever feel like you are being ignored by the world, no matter how loud or how impactful you've been? Today, I would like to take a closer look at one of the more underappreciated watch brands in horology. Hello, my name is Martin, and I have a lust for watches. Introducing the Attesa EcoDrive Satellite Wave GPS in black titanium, model number CC4004-58E by Citizen.
Say I'm the one, your soul, is it a love? Your soul, is it a love? Your soul, is it a love? Your soul, is it?
As always, we need to discuss history. Citizen was founded in 1930, but prior to its founding, it was originally known as Shokosha Watch Research Institute, founded in 1918. Interestingly, it wasn't until 1930 that it adopted the non-Japanese name of Citizen. Unlike the other big Japanese brands like Seiko and Casio, it is a bit puzzling as to why it wasn't named with a Japanese name, perhaps like Shokosha. It may be due to the original company being purchased in part by Swiss investors, and whether it was an attempt at trying to market itself to the English-speaking nations, or just trying to be different, it certainly is a name that separates itself from other Japanese brands. Another interesting fact is that Citizen Watch Company is the parent company of Bulova, Arnold & Son, Frederic Constant, Alpina, and Campanola, Citizen's space-themed collection. On top of all of this is the ever-ubiquitous Miyota line of movements, which are, well, also owned by Citizen. Citizen, with its history based in Switzerland, has really been able to bring the two nations together, especially by mixing technologies and movements from the Swiss and matching it with cases and dials and finishing of the watch in typical Japanese perfection. Some other notable moments within Citizen's history are the following. 1959. Japan's fully waterproof watch called the Parawater, eventually spawning the Fugu in 1989. 1993. Development of the first multi-band atomic timekeeping watch. 1995. Introduction of EcoDrive, a solar quartz movement that as of 2007 had been estimated to eliminate over 10 million disposable batteries in North America alone. 2010. Bulova ultra-high frequency movement, which uses a 3-prong quartz crystal and has a frequency of 262.144 kHz with a smooth, sweeping second hand. 2019. The release of the Caliber 0100, a solar-powered quartz movement that has an accuracy of 1 second a year. Suffice to say, Citizen has not been idle and has been making advancements in all areas of watchmaking. It's a wonder at how underappreciated and how much the brand gets ignored as a global powerhouse. In my personal opinion, I think a lot of the overlooking has to be in part due to the brand's reliance on EcoDrive and its quartz provisions. It's not a secret that Citizen can make great automatic watches. You don't need to look any further than the Citizen or the Chicken lineup of watches. These rival Grand Seiko not just in finish but also in looks and also do it at a slightly lower price range. Yet the brand's automatics aren't usually marketed hugely outside of its home country. Also, another big factor is that the brand itself doesn't really have a design language that it has cultivated over the years. I think many of us watch lovers couldn't tell the silhouette of a Citizen watch, but could do so of the bigger icons. It's nice being a technical power, but without the design and aesthetics to keep your consumer base engaged, there's very little retention and marketing available other than providing a decent watch at quality prices. Even with all this being said, I do wonder, perhaps Citizen just doesn't care about that design philosophy and how their watches are perceived. Their sole focus isn't about selling more watches. Instead, it has got more to do with sustainability and making a difference in the world through environmental efforts, while also selling watches that are available for everyone, hence the name Citizen. The specs. The watch does come in one other variation that I know of, a silver version, CC4000-59E, without the orange accents. It is still titanium and identical in every other way. The watch has a wingspan of 51 millimeters, a width of 54 millimeters, glass width of 39 millimeters, and lug width of 22 millimeters. It is 15.1 millimeters thick, weighs 109 grams, and has a water resistance rating of 10 ATM. Inside is a F950 caliber solar quartz movement with EcoDrive technology. It comes with satellite wave GPS, world time including half-hour time zones, bringing the total time zones to 39, plus or minus 5 seconds a month without sync, dual time display with day and date, 24-hour chronograph in 1/20th second increments, a single alarm, perpetual calendar, accurate to February 28th in the year 2100, a battery level indicator. The watch and bracelet are made out of titanium and are coated with Citizen's Duratect DLC. Lume is found on the hour and minute hand. It has a double pusher deployant fold-over clasp and comes with a 3-position on-the-fly adjustment on the clasp activated by the 2 pushers, giving you 7 millimeters of adjustment in total. Slightly domed sapphire crystal with clarity coating. It isn't clear if it's applied on both sides, but I think it is from my own personal use. This watch was purchased secondhand from 2nd Street for $450 US. The watch retails for $1,900 to $2,000 USD, and at the time of making this video, there are 5 of these on sale on Chrono24. 4 of these are new, and the cheapest is used and listed for $700 USD. I'll also throw up a screenshot of what's currently on sale here in Japan at Rakuten, Japan's Amazon. And also an image from amazon.co.jp, which has the watch listed new at $1,300 USD. The watch was originally released in 2018 and, as witnessed, is still available, but I don't think these are being made anymore. Instead, newer models are available. Keep in mind that if you are interested in this watch or ones like it, there are different movements, primarily F900 and F950. F900 is older and the hands aren't as fast as the F950 when syncing with GPS or doing any of the operations, but overall they are very close if not almost the same. There is also a F9990. However, the watches made with those movements don't look anything like this. The dial is textured with a sandblast finish, and it looks like a 600 or 800 grit sandpaper. That's to say it's got a matte finish that's not glossy nor too soft. In the macros it looks like a very nice meteorite dial, but at wrist distance you'll only really notice the matte finish. The main logo, EcoDrive, and Satellite Wave GPS are all printed on a background, which is then applied to the dial. The main logo is printed in white, while the subtext below is printed in gray. On the dial itself is some similar print to help with signal reception and for checking whether or not the sync was performed. Also at the very bottom of the dial, in very small letters, made in Japan of course. There are 3 subdials, one to indicate the mode of the watch at the 3 o'clock, the second time zone doubles as chrono or alarm hands when mode is set at the 6 o'clock, and the date and power reserve plus summer time on and off at 9 o'clock. Aesthetically, the subdials at 3 and 9 are on a raised platform with 2 sets of concentric rings providing an inner circle and an outer circle. The subdial at 6 is done in the same way, except it has a polished border making it stand out from the rest of the dial. There is a date window between 4 and 5 o'clock, and the border corners are rounded and, well, very well finished. The chapter ring shows the minute markers, and along with that the UTC hour indicators are just beyond it, and eventually on the very outside ring there lies the typical city codes for reference. It should be noted that the chapter ring that contains the UTC hour markers does have a iridescent property to it, making it bloom when the light hits it, showcasing the color spectrum. As mentioned previously, there is a very slightly domed sapphire crystal on the watch, and it looks like there is AR on both sides of the glass from my own personal observations. When I look directly at the dial or even slightly off-center, it's basically impossible to see the glass. Only when I look at the watch at very glancing angles do I get any reflections. It's rather strange because it doesn't really look like there's any glassware at all. It makes for great legibility across all lighting situations, but it still seems very odd to me as the watch sometimes looks very exposed and open. The indices are applied and are rectangular in shape with a bit of an angled slope going towards the center. The tops have striations giving them a bit of texture, but otherwise the sides and the angled slopes are all high polish. The indices do appear to be very slightly raised from the dial, not even 1 millimeters. It is very slight and very subtle, but there is a bit of shadowing underneath them, providing a bit of darkening at the base instead of the index just meeting up with the dial. Overall, a very nice set of indices that make the watch very legible as there is no lume found on the indices. Sword style hands for the main ones at the center, and the sub-dials all use fence post hands. The main hands have lume filled in the middle, but the second hand is void of any lume and instead has an orange accent applied. The hands are polished and the edges look to be quite clean, and though I do spot some rough edges under macro, it would be very difficult to point it out to the naked eye. The sub-dial has a simple white paint application and all done the same way. Well proportioned and quite nicely executed set of hands. I really do like the orange accent and it looks very nice with the dark and black contrasting surfaces of the watch. I just wonder if Citizen could have gone with a bit more saturation on the orange hue to make it really pop. Not much to say here, as mentioned, it is on the main hour and minute hands, and it does last a while. However, with no lume found anywhere else, it doesn't really instill much confidence for legibility at nighttime. Also, due to no reference lume on the dial or on the indices, it could be difficult at times to orient the watch and tell the time accurately without calibrating your wrist. The case itself is quite angular. There aren't very many smooth edges at all, and instead you get some large faces which are all covered in the DLC and Duratect coating, making it quite sleek and very stealthy. The specific watch I have, I don't know how old it is or how much abuse it's gotten over the years because it still looks almost brand new to me. There's basically no scratches on the case or bracelet except on the clasp. Some people enjoy a bit of wear marks on their watch, so the clean and unworn aesthetic may not be for everyone, but it certainly does make the watch stand out from any other watch. The case back is fairly standard with the typical text to identify the watch and the model. Everything is printed and there is no etching nor engraving. The crown is push-pull and has a very slight feedback to it. The pushers actuate well and there's a very haptic click to the pushers, which makes them satisfying to use when engaging them. The crown does have some crown guards, but they aren't very obtrusive and perform its duties perfectly. Overall, the case is quite stunning, and I feel the most prominent part of it is how sleek and stealthy the watch can be, even at a thickness of 15.1 millimeters. Inside the watch is a F950 caliber movement from Citizen. It utilizes EcoDrive to maintain its energy through solar power. You can charge it via sunlight or just about any light source, even a simple desk lamp will suffice. Due to its quartz nature, the second hand does not have a smooth sweep, instead it will hit the markers perfectly each and every second. The movement does come with auto-correcting hands, so if you do put enough impact to jar the hands and have it misalign, they will simply correct themselves and you won't even notice it having gone awry. I'll just take a moment here now to show you how to use the chronograph. You first pull the crown out into position 1, then switch the 3 o'clock subdial to CHR for chrono, and push the crown back in. You can start the chronograph here with pusher B, and you can stop it with pusher B and reset it with A. One thing to note is that you don't need to wait for the chronograph subdial to start the chronograph. To set the time zones, you just put the watch into TME mode for time and pull the crown out to position 2. The second hand will now point to the current time zone the main hands are displaying, and you can rotate the crown to select the new time zone you want to display via the seconds hand. If you want to change the secondary time zone or local time as it is referred to in the manual, after you pull the crown out to position 2, use pusher B and the second hand will now point to the time zone the local time is set to, and you can rotate the crown to set this now. To switch between the two time zones you have set, you just hold down pusher A and pusher B. There is an audible beep, and the hands will all go whirling about. Quite nice to see in action. It makes you wonder why you keep all those silly automatics around. The movement also does provide an alarm, UTC, light level indicator, and lastly manual override via set. And if you want more information on how those work, I would recommend a review of the manual, which I've linked in the description. Great movement and a great set of features across the board. It makes for a perfect travel companion, and I often debate which one to take with me, the Casio Oceanus or the Citizen Attesa. The bracelet is fairly standard. It is a 3-link style construction with 2 long pieces that come out of the end link, making the lug-to-lug effectively a bit longer than really needed. However, it isn't too obtrusive and doesn't really get in the way of the wearing experience. Yet all that being said, it is a bit out of place and I would like to see these gone if possible. With a 22mm lug width, you may just want to swap it out and wear it on leather or rubber or NATO. It's really up to you, but the titanium here is very lightweight, of course, and with the Duratect coating, there's no need to baby the watch, and you can expect to wear the hell out of it before you get a scratch. Due to the coating, the bracelet is also quite smooth, so it does conform to the shifting wrist well, and additionally, with the on-the-fly adjustment found on the clasp and the half links, you'll be sure to find a fit that matches your wrist. The clasp, even with the on-the-fly adjustment, is very thin, and is probably one of the best on-the-fly adjustments I've seen anywhere across multiple brands. You'll see the same type of adjustment on the Seiko Astron watches. I just wish that Seiko and Citizen would provide the same features on their other watches, not just their Astron and Attesa lineups. Heck, I don't see why it's not adopted all over by bigger brands. Instead of the thick clasps you get to try and accommodate some easy glide feature, why not just use this one? Yes, you won't get as big of a choice in sizes, but do you really need that much variance? It isn't a diver's clasp, it's just a quick adjustment needed to accommodate for swelling and shrinking due to temperature changes and or just salty snacks consumed the night before. Great bracelet, and I've never wanted or had to swap it up for anything else. As a user that oftentimes takes the bracelet off right away, I'm surprised I still use it on a bracelet and have no plans on changing that. Alright, the pros. Not even sure where to start. The crystal is the best if you want clarity. The case and bracelet is scratch-free after all these years. I did manage to ding up the case a bit when I dropped it from a bush I was hanging the watch onto for this video. The set of features you get is mind-blowing and can only be beaten by your smartwatch. The dial is sexy and it's got a great color scheme. Who doesn't love a sleek black watch? Even with the measurements, it has the watch that wears closer to a 42mm and is much thinner than its 15.1mm thickness would indicate. If it wasn't evident to you already, I really like this watch and think it's a standout amongst giants in its field. Basically, if you can buy this for below $1,000 USD, I say do it before it's gone. For the cons. Well, the one big downside for me would be the 24-hour subdial found at 6 o'clock. It makes the second time zone a bit tricky to read, especially when the hour and minute hands are overlapping or if the main hour and minute hands are obscuring the view. I always felt the orange coloring of the second hand looked a bit green instead of it being closer to the red spectrum. I'm still not convinced I want both the hour time codes and the city codes. I think I could have just been happy with one or the other. It certainly does make the dial quite busy. However, I'm not too certain on this, and at times, with its darker tones, the dial does appear to be pretty minimalistic with all the features it brings. No Lume on anything else except the hour and minute hands is a sad point, which I think could and should be remedied by either the 12 o'clock index getting a bit of Lume or maybe just Lume up the subdial hands to give the viewer a point of reference. I really can't think of anything else to put here, and I'm grasping at air. Would I ever repeat this purchase should I lose or break the watch beyond repair? Yes, most certainly. Probably the very same unless it wasn't available or if there's a newer model that looks similar. It is probably one of the best bargains I've been able to find here in Japan. The watch wasn't listed well, so I think that no one even knew it was existed at the store, hence no one viewed it. But I knew right away when I saw it and wanted the watch, and for the price asked, it was a no-brainer. It's a keeper and a real gem that won't be forgotten. It's a sad reality that Citizen doesn't promote their products outside of Japan as much as Seiko does. When I first started my watch collecting journey, I had my nose up in the clouds and displayed full-on snobbery at the thought of wearing an eco drive. But after my experiences in this crazy world for the past 20 or so years, I have to admit Citizen just sort of grew on me, and I'm at a point in my collecting journey where I'm ready to commit a bit more into the brand and have been thinking of buying a chicken at one point. As one of the most underappreciated companies and a brand that is oftentimes pushed to the side in favor of the other bigger Japanese brands, it's a real shame that the brand isn't more popular with the masses. As mentioned before, perhaps it's the marketing, or just the lack of a design identity, and for whatever reason which isn't known to me, Citizen just doesn't get the love it should. In a selfish way, I really don't mind if no one cares about Citizen because the only person that matters in this hobby is yourself, and if you are like me and are lusting after this brand, I don't think you could do worse. If you like this video and would like to see more, you know what to do. Until next time, keep it real. Bye bye.